To be able to understand the significance and the true meaning of this holy day, we have to first start in the esoteric New Year's season, which is in the sign of Aries. This is the celebration of the sun as we go through the full circle of the zodiac sign. So starting in Aries, the esoteric New Year's, this is where the East Star, celebration of the resurrection of the sun, the East Star, which is the sun. Then the sun is at the highest point in the sign of Cancer, which is the solstice, the summer solstice. So solstice is the celebration of the sun, once again, where we have the word soul. I do have other content both here if you want to dive deeper into these holy days. But continuing on to now, the fall equinox. So the fall equinox is a celebration of both Aries and Libra. So Aries is the self, Aries is the beginning, Aries is the head. Then you go to Libra season, which is the celebration of unions, justice. That's why we have Judgment Day, and that's what the Day of Atonement means, the day of Yom Kippur. This is where it gets really interesting. A brief overview of what Judgment Day is. You know how I mentioned Aries? So Aries is also represented by desire, the fire energy, the spark. Libra is an air energy. It is the mental realms. A heart is light as a feather. This means that your heart, the heaviness of your heart, is as light as a feather. So when you go through the portals of Libra season, you have been judged for all of your sins. So sin is an esoteric principle connected to archery. That's also connected to divination. So what would happen is that a person would ask a question and they would shoot the arrow, and their intention is to hit the mark. But when they miss the mark, they therefore have failed. So this is an esoteric principle of missing the mark, missing a goal, missing an achievement. This is also where you could find out if it's a yes or no answer. When a person misses the mark, they have a heavy heart. But when you hit the mark, you have achieved your goal. You have accomplished something. So the heart is light as a feather. So when people would take this esoteric principle and also apply it to how to govern their life, if they have done something that has built guilt in the heart is not as light as a feather. So Judgment Day is pretty much weighing the heart. So referring to the biblical text found in Leviticus 16:21-22, high priest Aaron, he would take 2 lots, and this is a form of divination once again, that he would cast a lot, one for Yahweh, God, and the other one is for Azazel. So Azazel is an entity, some people call it a demon, but it is the scapegoat. The priest Aaron would take his hands and lay it upon the scapegoat and confess all of the sins onto the scapegoat. So the scapegoat, we know about that phrase and what that exactly means. So the scapegoat, in some passages that I have read, that they would take the scapegoat and they would send it over a cliff facing the east. So the east is where the sun rises. So this is all the celebration of the sun. The goat was either pushed or made to fall over the cliff. So the goat represents Capricorn, which we will get to in a moment, because Capricorn represents the fall of the sun. Now this practice is connected to a ritual called Pharmakos. And this is where they would take 2 men, it could be exiles, slaves, cripples, and they would offer them up to the sun god Apollos. One was a scapegoat and one was an offering. The scapegoat was made to fall over the cliff. Do you see the similarities? Both dealing with the sun and rising in the east over a cliff. The winter solstice. Once again, we have the word solstice, which is the celebration of the sun. And that's where we head into Capricorn season. And Capricorn was the goat that fell. So the sun falls. After it reaches Libra, after the fall equinox, the sun falls to the death, a rise in Easter season, which is Aries. So how does this day benefit us? It can be beneficial towards each and every one of us when we take a pause and review, have we been living up to our personal expectations and aligning with our true divine purpose and living and walking that out? That is the best way how we can utilize this energy within ourselves.